Welcome guys. There's been a new game released on Early Access. Now it's primarily a multiplayer, but there is a single player mode, just a single player skirmish and like a mini rogue light without any progression. So it's just you play the game and then if you die you start again from the beginning. So hopefully this will get improved, but at the moment it is primarily just a multiplayer game. So it's currently on early access and it's free at the moment, so you can jump in and give it a go. It's incredibly good. I've pumped in like 30 hours worth of gameplay in 3 days. So it's a really fun multiplayer. So what I'll do is I'll play a game against the AI just so I don't have to concentrate on playing. So before I do that, I'll just show you how the game works. So you create a roster, you pick a captain. So you've got 3 different captains you can choose from. There are more coming, but just in this early access there's only 3. And basically if your captain dies you lose the game. So you pick your captain and then you pick 10 troops to go along with them. So there's loads to choose from and they all do very different things. So you see here this one defends allies, reduces damage dealt to the allies. And then this one deals damage if you pay the cost, but it's immobile and it's got armor. So every single one of them does something completely different. You've got really strange ones, and it's really good, a really nice mix of units. So I'll jump into a game and I'll show you how it plays. So I'm just going to use the standard nuts and bolts is the one that you start off with. This is the pre-made one for everybody to try. And then these are the 4 that I've created. I've made a heavy melee side, or melee, everyone says it different. A heavy fast build where it's intended to try and finish the game early, but if you fail, if you don't finish the game really quickly, you'll fail in the long game. I've got a long game one, which is the opposite of the rush tactic, and then I've got I've called it run. Basically, you're just trying to play like an Eldari, skirting around them and trying not to engage them if you can, and just pick them off while you're skirting around. So that's a bit like a long game one, but this is a very defensive one, where this one's a bit of a mix. So I'm just going to use the standard pre-made one.
I seek only justice. My objective is my friend.
So at the moment there are only 3 maps, I think, but it doesn't really make too much difference. Every game plays out completely differently depending on what happens. So at the start of the game you have to choose some special abilities. These are always random. I think there's probably, if there's 6 on here, there's probably about 12 in total. So you don't always get the ones that you want. So on some of the builds, like the rush build, you'll want a damage, deal damage. On other builds, you'll want manipulation, where you're basically moving pawns around. Then you've got other ones that give you cinder, which is basically how you buy your units. You can stun troops. So these change the way the game plays drastically. And like I say, you don't always get what you want because there's about 12 in total and you only get 6 to choose from. So I recommend going for the damage dealing ones while you're learning the game, because they're nice and easy, not very complicated. You just do damage. So that's the one we're going to choose. So this is my hero or captain. This is theirs. Whoever loses the captain loses the game.
I am in control.
So each unit has got a movement area that they can move. So some units can move further, others can only move a very small amount. And then you've got your damage here. I'll show you on the card. The damage here, which he does 2 damage, and yellow means it's a melee attack. And then the number next to it is the health of the unit. So damage and health. A blue icon is a ranged attack. So it just so happens I haven't got one here. If they haven't got blue or yellow, then they've got a special ability. They don't have a standard attack. So this guy will only do damage. He'll deal 2 damage if he pays the cinder cost. So these units that have to pay a cinder cost, they don't have an attack, can be quite expensive to use, and you don't really want to be using them at the start of the game. So you start off with 1 cinder in round 1, and you get 2 in round 2, 3 in round 3, and then if you don't use it all, 3 of them will carry over to the next round. Any more than 3 and you lose it. So it's alright to save 3, but don't save any more than 3. Okay, so your bridge is where you deploy your troops. So here's the cost: 2, 3 and 5. I've only got 1 at the moment, so I can't deploy anything. Now if you click on your characters, you'll have the abilities and movement and attack down here. So this character's got Shield of Hope, so it reduces damage, and he's got Sword of Justice, which is an AoE damage around him. And then he's also got a passive Rally, which a random ally within range gains a shield, which is a reduced damage by 1 when a rival's destroyed. So I don't know if that's within a certain range. Oh, if you hover over, it'll show you the radius. Now that's the radius of where your allies need to be. I don't think it matters where the enemies are when they die, as long as your allies are within that range. Okay, that's enough talking. Let's get to playing. So you move your troops, you spend your cinder if you want, so I could reduce the damage, but any cinder up to 3 gets carried over. Now I want to carry some over so I can deploy some of these troops. So on round 2, I get 2 plus the 1 that I've just saved, and it shows you here that you get 3. So it's nice and easy. You can see you get 3. You can start planning out your turn while the enemy is taking their turn. So I can deploy this Toxoid. He's got poison, which means if he manages to do 1 damage, so he's only got 1 damage, he'll reduce all of the health down to 1. So that's incredibly good. It doesn't work against captains, though it only works against crew.
We must do this.
Okay, so the enemies, you can see what the enemies got when they deploy them. So it shows you up here. If he spends Cinder, he can increase his attack. First strike, if you have a look down here, if you hover over it, it tells you first strike targets don't fight back. So he can hit someone in melee, without getting retaliated. But ordinarily, if you hit somebody in melee, or if you're shooting at them but within melee range, then they will attack back.
I am in control.
So if you hover over them, you can see where they can move to. So we can see that he can move to here. So we're going to make sure that we don't go inside that range. Okay, so we can now get this Toxoid bloke out. Alien, whatever you want to call him. Make sure we don't deploy within his range. when you deploy, you can't act straight away. They start off stunned for the turn. Apart from with one of the captains, they've got an ability where you can spend Cinder to get them to move on the first turn. Okay, so we've deployed, we've spent all our Cinder, we can't do any attacks. The end button's highlighted yellow, so you know there's nothing else left to do, so let's end the turn. Okay, so round 3, we've got 3 Cinder this time. So this one is hasn't got an attack, so we'd need to spend Cinder to use the ability. So I don't particularly like these at the start of the game. So what you can do is recruit a new hero to your bridge by clicking this reinforce button. So it costs 3 Cinder, but it means that we're going to get a different crew member. So obviously, if you remember at the start, we had 10 different crew, but you only start with 3 if you go first, or 4 if you go second. Okay, so he's the one with the poison, so we can poison this guy, reduce him down to 1. So as you can see, he retaliates because he's melee. If he was a ranged character, he wouldn't retaliate.
Be brave.
Okay, now we can go in and finish him off. Now you can see here there's a yellow bubble. This shows you if you're within melee range. So we could just move just outside of melee range of the other character to make him have to move on his turn. So he wouldn't be able to hit me unless he moved. Because you can attack and then move. So you don't want to let them attack and then move if you can help it. Try and force them to attack, to move to you to attack. Okay, this is a really dangerous unit. This is the one that if you spend 3 Cinder, it does an AoE of 3 damage in a cone. But it's immobile, so if you stay out of its sight, it can't do anything. So it can probably see around here, and it can probably see to about here. But it can't see anywhere around here, because this is blocking it. And it can't see anywhere around here because this is blocking it. So we're going to want to try and stay in them areas. Okay, so down here, this is where your abilities are. You can see the enemy abilities, but you only get to see them once they've used them. So they've used corrosive particles, so we know that's one of their abilities. We don't know what the other one is yet. Okay, so this is the damage ability, deal 3 damage to all units in an area. So all you have to do, just hover over and attack. Nice and easy. Okay, and then we've got an ally invulnerable for 1 turn. So this is good to use if you're about to attack in melee, which I am about to do. So before you attack, apply this, and he won't get hurt with the retaliation attack. It also lasts in the enemy turn as well, so he's protected during the enemy's turn. As you saw, no damage. Okay, now what we can do, oh no, because this guy's got armor, this toxic guy with the poison can't do the poison damage to him because he needs to be able to actually do 1 damage for the poison to apply, and armor reduces damage by 1, so he wouldn't apply any poison. If you had a buff which buffed his damage up to 2, then he would apply the poison, but we haven't got the buff. So because he's terrible against captains, we're just going to keep him out of the fight for now. Wait until some crew turn up. Okay, click on the bridge. We've got 4 cinder. We need to spend at least 1 or it'll get wasted. So let's deploy Maximus. He can shoot. Sorry, he can move, shoot, and then move again. So he's pretty good, he is. Hover over him to see where he can move to. Make sure we don't deploy in his range.
A perfect day for righteous.
And if we wanted, we could deploy this cinder using character. Or we could spend and buy another character. So this guy snares people. So if he manages to hit them, they'll be immobilized. Even if he doesn't do any damage, if they've got a damage reduction, they'll still be immobilized. Okay, that's the end of this turn.
Let's shorten the list.
Okay, so he's got another character with armor. That's no good for him because he only does 1 damage. And he's put in vulnerability, that's what his ability was. So I can't do any damage to him at the moment, and I can't do any damage with these guys because they've both got armor. So we're in a bit of a pickle here. So I could try and damage this, but it's got so much armor and health that it'll take forever to kill him, and he's just going to return fire if I get within range to hit him. So it's time to just retreat. See if we can draw them out of this cone. Unfortunately you can't see the cone, but the cone's about that long, so we just need to stay behind these bits of cover. Right then, so what we can do is get this guy, because even though it costs 4 cinder, he does 3 damage to all units, so that's good against characters with armor. 3 or more damage is really good. Most things only do 2 or 1. So I think we might deploy him just to be able to potentially destroy this shotgunner. He's got an incredibly long range, so you can just hide him at the back.
You couldn't afford it.
Right, he's going to be in a bit of trouble from this, so I can't go through there. I can't hurt him, so I'm just going to have to try and... Now what I can do is fire, just so I get the movement.
You're not worth the ammo.
Ah. It's only when he damages the target it refreshes his move. If he doesn't damage it, he doesn't refresh his move. That's a shame. Okay. Now, there is a chance that you can get critical hits. I don't know what the base chance is. There's a base chance, probably 10%, maybe 5%. And then there's obviously abilities that can increase that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all we can do at the moment. We want to make sure the Toxoid can't get hit by him. And we're all done. We were just inside his AoE range. It's a little bit longer than melee range, unfortunately. But he's deployed someone right next to the Toxoid, and it hasn't even got any damage, so it won't even retaliate, so that's very kind of him. So we can apply the poison to him, and then we can finish him off with the captain. Okay, this guy's in trouble, he just needs to keep running. Now he can... Oh, that's a shame. I thought it was highlighting... when you move, it shows red lines. I thought it was highlighting the hero, but it was actually highlighting this turret. Okay, so what you can do is just try your luck to see if you get a critical hit. Unfortunately we didn't. Right then, so we're going to use his ability now. So we're going to pay 4 cinder. It's expensive, but it's really good. As you can see, it's a nice big AoE and it does 3 damage to everybody.
Brace yourself.
It also hurts yourself, so make sure you don't fire it at yourself. Okay, so because he's got really long range, I'm just going to move further away. His hero's only got 12 and mine's got 17, so it might be a good time to start trying to finish the game, because he hasn't got much else that can hurt me. I'm going to be getting 7 a turn, so I can use his ability and this one every turn from now on. So this might actually be a good idea to bring him out now.
Oh, lovely selection.
I think 7's the most that you can get each turn, and then you get 3 if you save it from the previous. If you spend it, the 7 is always the maximum. Okay, so I think we are gonna go in for a hit here and try and finish him off.
Focused execution.
Obviously he retaliates, so it's dangerous to do this with a melee person, but I think now is the time.
A bold message.
My boy.
Okay, so because he used corrosive particles on me, that hurt quite considerably. But we're gonna see if we can get Maximus in, do a little bit of plinking damage. He got 1, it's better than nothing. And then we can use these 2 abilities here.
Gorgeous, right?
Grenade?
So I think I should be guaranteed a win here,
Incoming!
because
Oh,
AoE
well
damage
then,
is always
let's
guaranteed, it can't miss.
Be brave.
I haven't got enough to do this special ability, but as long as I don't miss, there is a base chance to miss in melee. I don't know what it is. It says 100 chance to hit, but I've missed loads of times, so it definitely isn't 100.
This is not the
So there you go, that's how the game plays. Now obviously this was very easy because we were just playing against the AI. Unfortunately there's no difficulty levels, it's just one standard difficulty. So it's primarily a multiplayer game where you're playing against other people, and then obviously you'll get a variety of different abilities playing against you. So there's no ranking system, you just play whoever's playing. They might make a ranking system eventually, I don't know. But there's so many different combinations of troops that you can come up with. And all 3 of the heroes, the captains, play very, very differently. So there's a lot of replayability and trial and error and experimentation that you can do. So if we just have a look at this one. This one's airborne, so it can jump over obstacles. Reinforce when Astra destroys a crew. So basically, when I was buying crew, if she manages to get the killing blow, you get a crew for free. So that's really cool. Boost morale, it reduces the cost of your troops by 2, but it costs 1. So it's a net gain of 1, basically. It's a random troop in your barracks. I can't think what the thing's called. And then the remove stunned is how you get a player to act on the turn that you bring them into combat. If you use this, it removes the stunned, and then they can act immediately. So that would play very, very differently to the hero that we were just using, which was melee. This one's ranged and jumps over obstacles. And then we've got another one here, which he throws mines around the place. So he's more like an area denial player, and he can use an ability which manipulates people's movements. I'll quickly show you what I mean. You can move pawns around basically. So you can move your own and the enemies. So it can be quite useful. If there's an enemy just out of reach, you can bring them closer to you, or if you're just within reach of an enemy, you can move them away from
I
you.
will not stop hunting.
So it plays very, very differently to the melee character. He's another ranged character. So we're going to go for damage again and invulnerability. They're the same as what we had last time, which is pretty rare. So we're going second this time, and it means that we have one extra crew on our bridge. So we've got a character here that only costs one, so we're able to deploy him immediately. So we're actually able to potentially get a shot off here. It's only 27% chance though, but you may as well take it, you never know. Okay, so you can deploy it now obviously, or you can save up your sender and deploy multiple in one go. So different times call for different measures. Because he's a melee character, we don't want to be fighting him in melee, so we're not going to deploy him. We're just going to save a sender for the next turn.
You get ammo, you get ammo.
Okay, so here
Like you're thinking.
is his ability that lets you move characters around. So as you can see, it shows you the arrows of where this one drags them into the center where you are, and then there's a special ability in one of these which disperses everyone outwards from the center. So they're the two different ones. Suck them in or splash them out basically. Okay, so I think that'll do. I'll just quickly demonstrate. So you can bring them in closer to you. Now this is good in combination with the mine. The mine takes one turn to arm. So what you do is you deploy it to stop them from being able to move through, because they can't move through mines. And then if they're still within range on the next turn once it's armed, you can then use the ability that sucks them into the mine. That's basically the way you do it. Okay, I think that'll do for this video. So hope you enjoyed it. Take care guys, I'll see you soon.